Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. This is a video for all of you out there who have been wondering whether you are non-binary. And I have a set of questions for you that I encourage for you to ask yourself that I feel by diving deep into and journaling on, perhaps if you're in therapy, feel free to take these questions in the therapy, will help you further figure out or get more introspective depths into your own relationship to your gender and to figure out what your gender identity is. So this is a great video if you've been questioning, if you're not sure if you're non-binary or if you are perhaps maybe transgender or maybe you represent some other gender identity and you want to either rule out or confirm whether non-binary identity is for you, then this is a great video. So for starters, non-binary identity is nothing new. People have existed with non-binary identities for as long as humanity really has been alive. But we've been able to coin, in other words, to be able to give language and meaning to it probably in the past several decades. Now, non-binary is an umbrella term. It tends to cover gender identities that don't fit in the gender category of male or female. A lot of times people see this umbrella term also underneath then another umbrella term, which is transgender. And some people may identify as trans non-binary. It really depends on how you see yourself. But for a lot of people, it can be very distinct between those who are trans and between those who are non-binary. To make the distinctions, usually the ways that I look at it is non-binary tends to represent an individual who is exclusively neither one of the binaries. So exclusively neither male nor female. Versus a lot of transgender people, they feel really uncomfortable with their gender assigned at birth. And so do, by the way, non-binary individuals too. But for a lot of transgender individuals, I wouldn't say all of them, of course, but for a lot, they tend to identify with the other end of the binary. And a lot of times they tend to identify exclusively with one end of the binary, whereas non-binary people really feel like they're neither nor. Now, three ways to look at non-binary identity is this: a person who is between male or female, a person closer to one gender than another, but not entirely male or female, and a person who is outside of the binary system completely altogether. Some of the statements that I hear non-binary people identify themselves with, or the ways they define their identity, are this: I identify with both male and female binary genders. Sometimes I feel more masculine and other times more feminine. Notice how this statement is not exclusionary to one or another, but tends to fluctuate between one or another depending on that individual relationship to themselves. Another way people tend to describe themselves is, I don't feel connected to either of the binaries. I see myself more as a combo of the two, but not one or the other. Again, we're having that element of exclusionary being absent, which is so important to non-binary identified individuals. Another way people describe themselves is, my gender often feels fluid between male and female, and it varies from day to day. These individuals sometimes may also go by terminology or the way to describe yourself as gender fluid. And another way is, there is more dimension to my gender identity as simply male or female. Again, all of those statements, notice how they have that exclusionary thing missing. Non-binary people feel like they're not exclusively one or another. So it has more variability to it. Sometimes it has a lot more fluidity to it. Sometimes it has neither of those at all. And that's usually how people identify. Keep in mind that non-binary identities also can vary drastically in terms of their gender presentation and expression. Gender expression, simply put, is the way we express ourselves. It's the way we want to show up in the world in relationship to our gender. Our gender identity is our internal core. It's our internal sense of who we are. Expression is how we express ourselves, how we show up. And expressions vary across different gender groupings as well. For example, trans feminine individuals, their gender expression may vary strongly from feminine to hyperfeminine to masculine gender expression to anything in between, depending on how you want to show up in the world. The same thing applies to non-binary individuals. Your gender expression might be non-conforming. It might be conforming. It might be feminine. It might be masculine. Maybe a combination of the two. It might be androgynous. It might be fluid. So there's really no restrictions. I think the important thing about gender in general is not to be restrictive, because we are constantly changing lexicon. We're constantly broadening the concepts and understanding. So just instead of looking for things that really strongly define you, I feel that it is best to be open and to allow yourself to really experience and to see how you feel in relationship to gender. Remember, gender is your subjective sense of who you are. As such, you are an only one who can really feel how you feel about yourself. Another person cannot tell you what your gender is. Only you can tell yourself what your gender is. Now, here's the key questions, and there are, I'd say probably 10 questions that I would really recommend for you to ask yourself if you are wondering if you're non-binary. And I'm going to link them below as well. But these questions are going to be very illuminating if you just allow yourself some time to dive in and think about these questions. Question number one. Ask yourself, how do I feel about my gender assigned at birth? So first, right off the gate, ask yourself, what's your comfort zone with your gender assigned at birth? Find out for yourself if you feel discomfort. What is it about your gender assigned at birth that you feel uncomfortable with? Are there certain elements about your gender assigned birth that fall into identity? Are there certain elements that simply fall into how you would want to express differently your gender assigned at birth, or the role that gets assigned to it? So ask yourself this deeper question in order to really dive deep into who you are at the essence. Second question, how do I feel when people gender me based on my gender assigned at birth? So here you are now taking yourself. The first question was looking at yourself internally. Now you're looking at yourself externally in relationship to the world, in relationship to other people. And you're trying to analyze, how does it really feel when people refer to me as particular gender or another? Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel uncomfortable? All of those are going to give you clues. Question number three. What are my personal thoughts on what is gender identity? Great question to even ask yourself. Where do you stand in terms of understanding what is gender identity? Where does it come from? Understanding how you see gender identity will help you see if there's any resistances there. It's also going to help you test any kind of limiting beliefs you may have, and may further help you to branch out and maybe educate or learn a little bit more about the origins of gender identity. Next question. What are my thoughts about male and female gender identities? So now you're specifically tailoring yourself and asking yourself how you feel about specific binaries that are currently predominate our culture. Specifically, what are your thoughts about male and female? How do you see them? What do you feel about them? Next question. How do I feel about various gender roles? Is there a gender role I feel more resonant to? Now you're moving away from gender identity to a gender role, right? What are the gender roles? Gender roles are the stereotypical social norms that we have all constructed. Man is supposed to have this role, man is supposed to be active and supposed to be alpha, and men are supposed to be vocal, and men are supposed to be taking on the protective role. Women are supposed to be more passive, and women are supposed to be less vocal and more nurturing role. Those are gender roles. They're social constructs. So ask yourself, how do you feel about those roles? What are the roles are telling you? Are you feeling more resonant to one or another? Then ask yourself, how do I like to express myself with regard to gender? What is my gender expression? Remember how I mentioned your gender expression may vary. This is a great question to find out. How do you want the world to see you? How do you want to show up? How do you want to express yourself? Why does it even matter to you to express yourself? Next question. Do I notice my gender fluctuating between masculine and feminine from day to day? This is really important. It's going to help you understand whether you are exclusive to one more predominantly. Remember, you may not be 100% exclusive. None of us really are 100% exclusive. A lot of times, for a lot of us, sometimes on some days, I feel more masculine in energies than feminine. but yet my gender co-identity is female and it's strong and it's stable over time. So the question is whether the fluctuations, how often, how frequently they happen, and what does it tell you about your gender? What does it tell you about your relationship to yourself? If you find yourself that you're way less exclusive, that's also a sign. Next question. What are my thoughts on pronouns? Very important. How do you feel about pronouns? Any pronouns. She, her, he, him, they, them, ZZ, all the other pronouns out there. How do you feel? What are your associations? What are they telling you? When people are using pronouns in relationship to you, how do you specifically feel about them? Ask yourself all of those questions. They're all going to give you a little gateways, little data points into who you are. And the final question is, how do I want to feel about myself in regard to my gender? You may not know what your gender identity is, but you may want to start, instead of trying to see what you are, see what you're not. Ask yourself how do you want to feel? What will be important to you? What matters to you in regards to yourself? What aspects of your gender you want to feel connected to? Asking all of those questions I just listed are going to help you tremendously to dive into yourself. You may find out that, wow, I'm really not as exclusive as I thought. You may find out that, oh, I'm actually quite exclusive. And I'm actually quite more comfortable with my gender assigned at birth than I realized. You may find out that, forget it, non-binary definitely doesn't seem like me. And you may go on a quest to explore some other areas. Gender is exploratory in nature. It's meant to be explored. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you have been wondering if you're non-binary, these are a great set of questions. Again, if you're in therapy, I encourage you to take it to your therapist and explore it with your therapist. Comment below, let me know, have you gone through the questions? What are your thoughts are? Have they helped you figure out things about yourself? Comment below, let me know, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.